Oh, that didn't last long. Oh, darn it. I had it. Why did it go away? That works. It's kind of an awkward position, but oh well. We are back with Catalyst by Lisa Beeson. Chapter 21. Pardon how dirty I probably am. I've been grooming the animals all day. And little Gamora's up next after this. But here we go. Running out of space and battery. Chapter 21. Cam was thoroughly enjoying his making out session with Claudia. She was so hot, and their attraction felt almost electric. This was everything he'd been wanting for a long time. A gorgeous girl wanting him as much as he wanted her, and unable to keep her hands off of him. But he couldn't help feeling like their relationship was sort of hollow. It seemed as if it was only about lust and attraction. To any other 17-year-old boy, that would be perfectly acceptable. In fact, a year ago, that would have been more than perfectly acceptable to him. But now, it didn't feel right. So while his body was screaming, "Yes!" to the fact that Claudia's fingers were now at the waist of his shorts, his mind was screaming, "Hold up!" It went against everything his body wanted right now, but he put his hands on her shoulders and gently but firmly pushed her away so that there was an arm's length of space between them. "You are an idiot, Cam Baldwin," he admonished himself. "Hold up, let's pump the brakes a second," he panted. Claudia looked down at the digital clock on her cuff for exactly 1 second, then gave him a flirty smile. "Okay, now where were we?" She tried to go in for another kiss, but Cam stood strong and kept her at a distance. Her brow creased in confusion and disappointment. "What's the matter? This is the first time we've been able to be completely alone. Don't you want this?" "You have no idea," Cam conceded. "It's just, this is all going a little fast for me," he said with a shrug, knowing he sounded completely lame. "Fine, whatever," she said as she folded her arms across her chest, trying not to pout. "Are you sure this isn't about Ari?" "What? Why would this be about her?" Claudia tilted her head like, "Oh, please," and gave him her "you're being dumb" face, which, if he was being honest with himself, wasn't as cute as it used to be. "I've seen the way you look at her, Cam. I'm not stupid." "What? No," shaking his head in firm denial. "I love Ari like a sister." "But she's not your actual sister, though, is she?" Claudia said, as though she couldn't believe that she had to explain this all to him. "And she certainly isn't a little thing anymore. And she certainly isn't a little anything. She's a giant exotic Amazon woman who looks way older and way hotter than any 14-year-old has a right to, scars and all. And don't stand there and tell me you don't see it. You'd have to be blind." "I don't think of her in that way," he insisted. "When I met her a year ago, she looked like a normal 13-year-old girl. She can't help it if puberty hit her like a Mack truck." He loved Ari, but never in a physical way. That would just be weird. For a brief second, his traitorous mind flashed to the image of Ari back in New York, all dressed up like a gorgeous socialite for that party. And then the image of her dressed up like the badass comic book heroine they were all talking about earlier. And suddenly he wasn't so sure anymore. "She's only 14, you idiot!" Anyway, this," he said, motioning between himself and Claudia, "has nothing to do with Ari, and everything to do with slowing down before we do something we regret. I'm not ready to be someone's baby daddy." "Whoa!" Claudia said, holding up her hands and looking at him like he had just taken a major, presumptuous leap. "Look, if you're not into being together anymore, then just be a man and let me know. Instead of coming up with these wild But she was cut off by a crashing noise coming from the utility closet. Both their heads snapped towards the sound. Cam was closer to the closet, so he went over to open the door, just in time for them to see a glimpse of a shrinking hole in the back wall, with an unmistakable view of Soren and Ari's legs standing in the twins' room. When the hole disappeared, Cam and Claudia stood there frozen in shock, their argument forgotten. "You saw that, right?" Claudia asked, still looking into the dark, empty closet. "Ari and Soren on the other end of a magical portal into the twins' bedroom?" Cam asked, still looking into the closet. "Yep." "Then yes. Yes, I did." "Did you know they could do that?" she asked, finally looking over at him. "Nope. You?" She shook her head. Ready to go run upstairs and see what the heck is going on?" he asked. "Yep," she said with a nod, and they both turned and ran out of the library. Ari was stretched out on the floor and leaning back against Soren's bed, making a significant dent in the twins' secret's candy stash, which they thankfully were sharing with her so she could keep herself from passing out, when there was a loud knock on their door. "Open up!" Cam's muffled voice said through the door. "We saw what you guys did!" Crap. That meant they knew that she and Soren had been in the closet listening to them make out. The twins, who'd been jumping on Skylar's bed in excitement over what she and Soren had just done, looked to Ari to see what to do. She nodded at them to say that it was okay. Skylar jumped off the bed and ran to the door. "You gotta say it first," she shouted. "Oh, do I really have to?" Cam asked, his voice sounding reluctant and impatient. "Yes!" Skylar insisted, her face spreading into a wide grin in anticipation. "Fine," he sighed. "I am the prettiest princess in all the land," he said flatly. "Now open up." "No, you gotta say it in the voice." "Skylar, this is ridiculous," Claudia said. "Do it," Skylar shouted. Cam changed his voice into a warbling falsetto with a faux English accent. "I am the prettiest princess in all the land." Both of the twins busted out laughing. Ari had no idea when this ritual had started, but she had to admit that it was pretty funny. "Welcome, fair princess," Skylar giggled as she opened the door for them with a dramatic swish. Cam and Claudia burst into the room, saying, "How did you do that? And why were you in the closet at the same time?" Ari was about to answer, but her cuff pinged and she looked down to see a text from Alvaro. "Where are you?" While Ari texted him back her location, Skylar obliged to fill them in. "Soren was sad, so Ari found him in the closet and was trying to cheer him up when you two came in. They didn't want to listen to you guys make gross kissing sounds, so Soren made a magic door to our room." "As one does," Cam pretended to concede with the tip of his head before he turned to Soren, motioning to his head in incomprehension. "What? When the heck did you start making portals?" Soren pointed towards Ari. "I could only do it because of her." "Can you do it again?" Cam asked, looking between her and Soren excitedly. Ari shook her head. "Not right now. It takes too much out of me to amp him that much." She shoved a fun-sized Snicker bar in her mouth to punctuate the point. Skylar immediately ran over to shove the rest of the candy back into the shoebox and shove it under Soren's bed. "You didn't see that," she said, turning back to Cam and Claudia with the most innocent face she could muster. Just then, Alvaro came to a sliding halt outside the twins' doorway. "Ari, they're coming!" Ari's scalp tightened and began to tingle in apprehension. "Who? There were so many theys that were after her." Who's coming?" "The people in that living room I showed you," he said, referring to his vision of Cass, Jamie, and the mystery man sitting in the Lennox's living room at Paradise Glades. "I think they're on their way here." That definitely wasn't what she had been expecting. "What? Why? How do you know?" Ari blurted out while getting up to sit on Soren's bed. "I saw their faces, then a flash of an all-seeing eye, then the Scion's Keep symbol. if it doesn't mean they're coming here, then maybe it could mean we're going to meet up with them or something, possibly, maybe. Ari was floored. Why would Cass and Jamie come all the way up here? Unless maybe there was bad news about Adam. He's been suspiciously absent from all these visions. What are you talking about? Cam asked, obviously worried. What people? Alvaro saw Cass talking to Jamie and some other guy I don't know a while ago, Ari explained, and Cam looked just as baffled as she felt. Who are they? Claudia asked. Should we be worried? They're good people, Ari said. I just don't know why they would come here or why we'd be meeting up with them. Whatever the reason, she had a feeling it wasn't good news by the way her scalp was tingling. Should we go tell Gordon? He's not too keen on outsiders coming here, especially with this Red Death thing going around, Claudia said. If they're your friends, then we can put the Egyptian kohl around their eyes, and they'll be protected like us, Skylar suggested, pointing to her black-lined eyes. I think we should tell him, Ari, Alvaro said. We need to be prepared for them at least. Maybe we should wait until we're sure of what it means, Ari said uncertainly. Suddenly, a large green and yellow bird bust in through the open doorway with a bluster of feathers and flapping wings, catching the entire room off guard. What the? Cam sputtered. Pretty girl, Armand squawked as he landed on Ari's shoulder. She noticed a small folded piece of paper he had discreetly dropped into her lap while he landed. There wasn't an energy tether attached to his head, so Enzo had apparently only sent him to her instead of taking control of him like he could have. Skylar looked like she was in heaven as she stared at Armand, who was grooming his feathers as he sat on Ari's shoulder. Cam and Claudia were still trying to figure out what was happening, and Alvaro just smirked. Whose bird is that? Cam asked, baffled and amused by its sudden appearance. He lives with old Enzo on the roof, Alvaro answered. He casually waved to the bird. Hi, Armand. Armand turned his head to look at him before bobbing his head and said, Hi, Al. Hi, Al. Skylar squealed with glee. Hi, Armand, she said while frantically waving her hand at him. Armand looked at her over before squawking out, Hello. Alvaro held out his forearm, like Enzo had told Ari to the day she came up to visit him, and Armand flew over and landed on his arm. Can I hold him? Skylar asked hopefully. Probably not. He's heavier than he looks, he said. But if you guys are very calm and very gentle, you can stroke his feathers. While everyone was busy giving Armand some love and attention, Ari discreetly unfolded the paper in her lap to see that it was a note from Enzo. Ari, please come up here and talk to Val. She's depleting my pipe crop at a significant rate. E.B. Enzo Bruni. Ari knew Val wouldn't risk smoking pot here. There were too many adults around, which meant that she was planning on sneaking out. Val's going to be putting herself in the Shade's grasp again. Ari folded up the note as she stood up. Enzo wants to talk to me again. I'll see you guys later, okay? Cam and Skylar were both about to say something, but she sifted out of the room before they were able to speak. She had to get up to the roof and stop Val before it was too late. She slowed down when she reached the elevator and pushed the up button. She thought about trying to make a portal like Soren, but she didn't want to risk using up too much energy. Man, that would be so freaking convenient to be able to portal anywhere you wanted to go. But for now, she needed her strength to convince Val not to do whatever she was planning to do. The elevator doors finally opened, and she eagerly stepped in, endured the ride up, and then hopped out as soon as the doors opened again. Oblivious to the dark storm clouds in the distance, she immediately found Val's energy signature leading to the greenhouse. She sifted as she followed the trail towards the back, to the slightly hidden corner alcove where George grew the marijuana plants. Val was filling a satchel with as much as she could fit in there. Slowing down to real time, Ari said as non-confrontationally as she could, "Val, what are you doing?" But Val jumped at the sudden noise and cursed as she turned to see who it was. "Damn it, Stumpy, you scared the hell out of me," Val said, trying to take slow, deep breaths to calm her heart rate down. "Why the hell are you up here anyway? Shouldn't you be down there playing reindeer games with the rest of the sheeple and getting ready for the arrival of the Ice Queen?" Ari noticed the dark crescents under Val's heavy-lidded, bloodshot eyes. She looked like she hadn't slept in days, and Ari felt guilty for not trying to hard her to make sure she was okay. "Enzo sent a note down telling me you were up here." She held up the folded note as proof. "Gross. That creepy old guy's been spying on me," Val said, looking around blearily, as though she was expecting him to be hiding in the plants somewhere. When she didn't see him anywhere, she glanced down at Ari's new leg. "I guess I can't call you Stumpy anymore, can I?" she grimaced. "Good for you and all that," she said with a flippant wave. "I'm sure you'll live happily ever after now that you're not defective anymore. You're still a giant freak," she amended. "But at least you're a fully functional giant freak now." And with that, she turned back around to finish up filling her large satchel. Even though that was exactly how she felt about herself, Ari ignored the insults. She knew Val was only trying to hurt her so that she'd go away. Val was a pro at zeroing in on someone's insecurities and using them as a weapon. "Val, don't do this," Ari pleaded. She read Val's intentions of leaving and wanting to use the profits from the weed to live off of. "George can always grow some more," she said dismissively. "This is the last time I'll be taking any of it anyway." "Val, stay. It's too dangerous out there right now." "It's dangerous everywhere all the time," Val said as she closed up the satchel and shut herself off to anything Ari had to say. Ari could see that Val was about to bolt, so she decided to go with a different tactic. Alvaro told you about seeing the Mad Hatter logo again, didn't he?" "Yeah, he did," she said bitterly. "He also told me that he only did it because he was worried about you. He couldn't give a crap about me." Ari knew that couldn't be the whole truth. Alvaro wasn't that mean. "Besides," Val continued, "ever since Claudia got here, everyone only sees me as some kind of fiend for not healing people like she can, or a disaster waiting to happen. And judging by the way I've been feeling lately, I'm probably already infected with that Red Death virus anyway, so everyone will be better off if I just leave." Ari knew that Val didn't have the Red Death virus because she'd already been showing... Ari knew that Val didn't have the Red Death virus because she'd already be showing symptoms by now. Val wasn't sick. She was only feeling the effects of extreme sleep deprivation. Ari latched onto Val's energy to try to determine what was really going on with her, and she was overwhelmed by Val's fatalistic hopelessness and a sharp, pervading need. Val was craving something so fiercely that it was taking everything she had not to be climbing up the walls. The only thing keeping her sane was the intention to leave Scion's Keep to go find what she craved. Asa hadn't been able to erase all the adverse effects from the Mad Hatter drug cocktail the night he healed her. Holy crap, she's been fighting this craving for almost 2 weeks? Between that and the trauma of what happened to her that night, no wonder she hasn't been sleeping. Val looked up into Ari's eyes, and Ari sensed her sudden wave of anger. "Stop looking me at... Well, I ruined that. "Stop looking at me like that!" Val shouted. "Like what?" "Like you know me. Like you understand. You can't possibly understand," she said, and Ari could feel that Val's anger was tinged with longing and regret. "Stop pretending like you care about me. It's a waste of both our time." One moment. "I'm not pretending anything. I really do care about you, Val. You know it's the truth. That's what scares you." "Whatever," Val dismissed as she rolled her eyes and shook her head. But Ari could feel her internal struggle and how much she was hurting. I know that everyone should have loved and protected you, let you down, and made you feel like that you were disposable, that you weren't worth anything. But that's a reflection on them, not you, Ari said. I see you, Val. Under all the meanness, the anger, and the barriers those horrible people have forced you to build, I see your incredible strength, your kind and honest heart. You are a good person, Val. You held up a mirror to my face to help me see the truth when I was at my lowest. So now it's my turn. Here is your mirror of truth, she said, pointing to her own face. You are worth so much more than you can possibly comprehend. You are worth loving. Val was shaking her head vehemently while tears began to stream from her eyes. She couldn't let herself believe. She refused. She tried to push past Ari, but Ari didn't move and brought Val into the hug she so desperately needed. What do you think you're doing? Let go of me! Val cried out as she fought to get free, but Ari was too strong for her and held on tight. Relax, I'm just hugging you, Ari said stubbornly. Val was so small that the top of her head only came to Ari's shoulders. She felt so tiny and brittle. Ari started concentrating on Val like Azza would have, letting her energy flow through her, searching for anything wrong. She began combating the effects that the sleep deprivation caused, coaxing Val's cells to heal and regenerate, boosting her metabolism to flush out the built-up toxins, and then readjusting her immune system to the strength it should be. Then she followed the energy to Val's brain, and found that the dopamine and serotonin levels in her nucleus accumbens were way out of whack. She concentrated on coaxing them into a healthy balance, so the craving for the drug would disappear, and she'd feel sated and content. Once Ari did that, she could feel Val's muscles relax in a sigh of relief, and she actually started hugging Ari back, and she felt Val's tears hit and slide down her arm. Not one to do anything halfway, Ari made sure Val was the healthiest she had ever been. When she felt Val was finally in prime condition, she pulled back the healing energy and enveloped her in the solace and the love she deserved. She cleared out the jagged, broken shards of mental anguish, like she had done with herself and with Tober back on Kale's boat, finally bringing the poor girl some much-needed peace. When Ari was finally done, she felt as though she had just run 2 marathons back-to-back, like she had when she healed her neighbor, Rachel, back in Savannah. Evidently, healing someone sapped massive amounts of her strength. Good to know. She had to sit down before she passed out on her feet. It probably wasn't the best idea to start sifting again, unseal a door, help Soren create a space-bending portal, and completely heal Val all in one day. Pace yourself, Ari. Her vision was getting dark and fuzzy around the edges, and she was starting to lose her balance. Letting go of Val, she stumbled over to a wooden plank bench nearby. Taking deep, slow breaths, she leaned forward and cradled her heavy head in her hands. Ari, are you okay? Val asked. Ari nodded as she continued to take in slow, deep breaths to steady herself. I'm just woozy, she panted out. Here, Val said as she sat down next to her on the bench and handed Ari her smoothie cup. This should help. I've only taken a couple sips out of it. Thanks. Ari took the cup, taking off the lid and eagerly gulping it down. It tasted different from her usual sludge smoothie, which meant that it wasn't exactly what she needed, but it was better than nothing. How'd you do that? Val asked in awe. I've never felt this good in my whole life. Ari glanced over at her and saw that tears were still streaming down her face, but the dark circles were gone. Her skin was smooth and vibrant. Her hair was shiny and full, and her radiant energy was bright and strong, like a brilliantly colored corona around her. She looked amazing. You deserve it, Ari said sincerely with a smile. I wish you could see yourself how I see you. You're absolutely beautiful. If she had been at 100%, Ari would have been more aware of Val's energy sparking where their legs were nearly touching. But since she was so spent, Ari was completely caught off guard when Val suddenly grabbed her face and passionately kissed her on the lips. Ari was so shocked that she froze. This was the second time someone had kissed her without provocation. But instead of being repulsed like she had been from Royce Kavanaugh's rough kiss, Ari felt horrible that she had accidentally led Val to think that this kiss would be reciprocated. Ari could feel Val's attraction to her and the overwhelming need for requited love. Ari's feelings for Val were only platonic, as with everyone else. But she knew that her rejection of Val's affection would be a huge blow to the trust she had just built with her. Ari could fake it, just to give Val this moment, but it would be a lie, and that wouldn't be fair to either of them. Ari was at a complete loss of what to do. Ari must have felt the one-sidedness of the kiss, because she suddenly stiffened and pulled back, her eyes wide with fear and mortification. I must have read that wrong, she stammered. Then the wall was back up between them again, and Ari's heart broke. She'd botched it. Val definitely wasn't going to stay now. Val, that's not it, Ari insisted. I don't feel that way about anyone. I can't. Save it, Val shouted as she stood up, like she couldn't stand to be around her anymore, and Ari could feel Val's rage building. If you tell anyone about this, I'll kill you, she yelled before grabbing her satchel and running away down the path. Val! Ari yelled as she made to chase after her. Her energy was so drained that as soon as she stood up, the blood rushed out of her head with the sound of an oncoming train. She passed out before she hit the ground. And that was the end of chapter 21. Dun dun dun!